Welcome back to the Code Red podcast, where we call out America's biggest security threats and the politicians who appease them. Today, we're digging into one of the world's most dangerous regimes, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, Iran isn't just a dictatorship with questionable policies. They're an openly hostile, radical theocracy whose constitution actually mandates exporting their brand of Shia Islamic revolution. And guess who's standing in their way? The United States and our allies. From ballistic missiles to nuclear brinksmanship, from Hezbollah to the Houthis, from secret facilities to shady deals with global rivals, Iran is working overtime to challenge the West. And in the last few months, things have really heated up. Today, we're diving deep into some new data showing just how close Iran might be to a nuclear weapon, how they've been using proxy forces to threaten U.S. soldiers in Iraq and Syria, and why their relationships with Russia and China matter in ways that should concern every American. So grab your coffee or your driving wheel, because this is Code Red. Let's start with Iran's nuclear program.
Iran is apparently, quote, weeks away from the capacity to develop a nuclear bomb.
Let's not forget that Iran's nuclear program is still a reality. It's still a program that needs more monitoring.
According to recent inspector reports, Iran is enriching uranium up to 60% purity. That's just shy of the 90% needed for weapons grade. And it's not just a few grams. By late 2024, they'd amassed roughly 165 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. Enough, if further enriched, for about a dozen nuclear warheads. Then, by early 2025, that stockpile surged by 50% to around 275 kilograms. Experts say if you count their low and high enriched uranium combined, they've got enough material for 17 potential bombs if they decide to enrich it all the way. We're talking about a breakout window of mere weeks, but it doesn't stop there. Iran's also building nuclear facilities in secret. Satellite images revealed a heavily fortified underground complex near Natanz, deeper underground than even Fordo. The IAEA tried to investigate suspicious uranium traces at undeclared sites. Tehran basically told them to get lost. They even disconnected some of the cameras meant to monitor their nuclear activity, leaving inspectors blind to large swaths of the program. Back in November 2024, the IAEA board censured Iran for obstructing inspections and demanded compliance by spring 2025. Iran refused, hinting it might walk away from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Let's be clear, if they do that, they could legally start churning out actual nuclear weapons. Western intel believes Iran already has enough technical know-how to produce a warhead in as little as 6 months. And with a newly re-elected President Trump in office, the White House is taking a hardline stance, while Tehran is basically doubling down. So that's the nuclear front. But how's Iran actually pushing its agenda day to day? Through missiles and proxy wars. Over the past few months, things flared up big time in the Middle East, particularly around the recent Israel-Hamas war.
It's essentially that about 6:30 a.m. local time, the Hamas terrorists began firing a barrage of rocket fire from Gaza into Israel.
Some of the militants used paragliders to cross into Israel. You can see one flying here, right next to a barrage of rockets.
Iran is behind this Hamas attack. This Hamas attack could not have been carried out without the help of Hamas.
Western intelligence says Iran launched ballistic missiles at Israel. Some reports say 180 missiles. Ironically, turning an already brutal conflict into a potential flashpoint between two major powers. Israel retaliated by striking Iran's covert nuclear facility at Parchin, apparently knocking out advanced research equipment. But more often, Iran attacks through militias and proxies, rather than direct confrontation. Iranian-backed Shiite groups have launched 170 to 175 rocket and drone attacks on U.S. bases since October 2023. The U.S. responded with airstrikes on about 85 Iran-linked targets in Syria and Iraq, which paused the attacks. For now. Hezbollah regularly trades fire with Israel. They've got an arsenal of rockets courtesy of Iran. The Iran-aligned Houthis aren't just fighting the Saudis anymore. They're firing missiles at ships in the Red Sea and have even tried to hit Israel from over 1,000 miles away. The USS Carney intercepted several Houthis cruise missiles launched toward Israel, marking the first time the U.S. Navy directly shot down such threats in defense of an ally. And let's not forget the Persian Gulf, where the IRGC harasses oil tankers, threatening one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. When Marines deployed in August 2024 to protect vessels, Iran slowed down briefly, but they haven't given up. They're testing medium-range missiles like Khaybar, capable of hitting Israel, and claiming to have a hypersonic ballistic missile in the works. Whether it's fully real or not, the IRGC loves flaunting new hardware to flex on the international stage. So how does the U.S. plan to keep Iran in check? Sanctions, 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 and maximum pressure.
How close do you think Iran is to developing nuclear weapons?
I think they're close. I think they're close. They're too close.
And why say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left.
After years of partial relief under the Obama and Biden administrations, President Trump has returned in 2025 with his maximum pressure approach, tighter than ever. An executive order in February aims to drive Iran's oil exports to zero, punishing any country or company buying Iranian crude. China, which had been importing up to 1.5 million barrels a day, has been put on notice. The U.S. also lowered the threshold for blacklisting companies linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. Even a minority IRGC stake now triggers sanctions. Iranian oil shipments briefly dipped after an enforcement push in late 2024, but some of China's refiners resumed business. Now, with new measures, analysts expect them to pull back again. Iran's economy is already buckling. Inflation is over 40%, the rial is plunging, and foreign reserves are drying up. During Trump's first term, Iranian oil revenues plummeted from $65 billion in 2018 to just $16 billion in 2020. After 2021, when Biden eased enforcement, Iran exported more oil again, boasting 1.4 million barrels a day in 2023, money that undoubtedly helped fund terror proxies.
If you think about Iran as a river sending funds into their proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas, those proxies had dried up. They were running out of money. Today, they're flush because Iran has been allowed to bring in estimates are as high as $80 billion of excess revenues from illegal petroleum sales. The Biden administration looking the other way, not enforcing the sanctions. In fact, they're enforcing these sanctions the same way they're enforcing our border right now. It's pathetic.
In February 2025, the U.S. sanctioned a major oil shipping network. Iran's government had to slash its 2025 budget by 90% in oil revenues. Ayatollah Khamenei keeps blaming the U.S. for economic warfare and demanding the release of $6 billion frozen in Qatar. But for now, Qatar's holding firm under U.S. pressure. Meanwhile, there's growing unrest in Iran over high prices and unpaid wages. But, and this is crucial, Iran is very good at sanctions evasion. They use a ghost armada of reflagged tankers, shady barter deals with Russia, and under-the-table channels. Even so, the pinch is real. The more we cut off their cash flow, the less they can fund militias and nuclear development. Diplomatically, you might ask, isn't there a chance for a deal? Well, negotiations are basically in a stalemate. Iran wants full sanctions relief before scaling back nuclear work. Iran also refuses to shut down its nuclear development and instead wants oversight of it. The U.S. wants them to scale back first. One small area of cooperation, oddly enough, was avoiding accidental war in places like Iraq, where the U.S. told Iran through back channels, "Stop attacking our troops or we'll strike back." For a while it worked, but it's a band-aid solution. Instead, Iran is forging deeper ties with Russia and China.
Iran, Russia, and China are strengthening their military ties through joint exercises, which will take place off the coast of Iran from Tuesday. The drills aim to strengthen security, boost multilateral cooperation, and counter what they perceive as American hegemony.
They've provided Russia with drones and ballistic missiles for the Ukraine war. In exchange, Russia might supply Iran with advanced fighter jets, Su-35s, and other military tech. Both countries are heavily sanctioned by the U.S., and they seem more than willing to help each other circumvent those sanctions. Meanwhile, China brokered a mini-détente between Iran and Saudi Arabia in March 2023, leading to some diplomatic moves, like reopening embassies. Gulf states remain suspicious, though, especially after seeing Iranian proxies ramp up attacks on shipping and Israeli targets.
The U.S. military destroying 3 boats that ambushed a container vessel in the Red Sea. The Iran-backed Houthis were behind that attack.
Iran also joined the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, in January 2024, calling it a major step to break Western dominance. The membership might be more symbolic than practical, but it shows how Tehran tries to pivot toward a multipolar world where U.S. pressure loses its sting. They also joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, again, led by Russia and China. If you're seeing a pattern here, you're not alone. Iran is essentially saying, if the U.S. won't give us sanctions relief, we'll go east. Now, stepping back, why should everyday Americans care? It's simple. A nuclear-armed Iran means nuclear blackmail in the Middle East, threatening global oil supplies and making terror networks even bolder. Iranian proxies target U.S. soldiers, our allies, and international shipping lanes. Any misstep could spark a larger war. By aligning with Russia and China, Iran is effectively teaming up with America's top geopolitical rivals, creating a new axis that could challenge us worldwide. We didn't get here overnight. Back in 2015, President Obama's JCPOA, Iran nuclear deal, was supposed to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions. Instead, it gave Iran billions of dollars in sanctions relief and had sunset clauses. Essentially, Iran could wait out the restrictions, keep refining their nuclear know-how, and end up stronger. Worse, they poured freed-up money into Hezbollah, Hamas, ballistic missiles, and God knows what else. President Trump scrapped the deal in 2018, reimposed sanctions, and hammered Iran's economy. That forced Iran's regime to cut back on funding terror, some success there. But with the policy flip-flops under the Biden administration, Iran found ways to rebuild. Now in 2025, we're seeing another shift back to maximum pressure, which might once again starve Iran of resources, but they're also further advanced militarily and nuclearly than ever. The Islamic Republic of Iran is playing a high-stakes game. Their ideology demands spreading radical Shiite revolution. They're ramping up nuclear capabilities, and they're forging ties with Russia and China to bypass sanctions. Past attempts at appeasement, like the Obama-era nuclear deal, simply gave them money and time to expand their terror network and nuclear progress. We at Secure America Now believe the only language Tehran respects is strength. That means relentless sanctions enforcement, punishing IRGC front companies, backing our allies militarily, and making it clear that any move toward an actual nuke triggers a robust response. Yes, that's tough talk, but the Middle East's most dangerous regime demands no less. So as we wrap up today's episode of Code Red, remember, ignoring Iran's nuclear ambitions won't make them go away, and naive deals that hand over billions won't buy lasting peace. We must stay informed and hold our leaders accountable. If you found this breakdown helpful, share it, subscribe, and join us next time as we shine the spotlight on more threats to America's security. Until then, stay informed, stay strong, and stay in the fight.